no helicopters have been procured for me to go to golf course. Thank you.
I've never said he wasn't a great politician. I'm just saying he's a officer.
It's supposed to be an interview.
How'd you play out there today?
Well, I found the conditions challenging, mostly because there's no grass on the golf course, but there never has been.
I'm thinking about the swag bag, and I have high hopes for the swag bag.
When you got 3 crevices on the green, your course is trash.
What is happening, folks? Welcome back to the Beltway Golfer Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Dixon. This is episode 62, our first podcast of the new year, 2023. Been a little while since I put out a podcast. Last one was just after Thanksgiving, so almost 2 months, but I'm going to ramp it back up here for 2023. Excited for a big year. Got a lot of guests I'm looking forward to and stories I'm looking forward to telling on the podcast this year. And one of the things I'm going to start doing on the podcast, which I'm going to start right now, since it's been a couple months since I put out a podcast, is to give some updates on what's going on in golf around the DMV and just things that are related to the industry and that the golfing public might be interested in the Mid-Atlantic. And before I get to the conversation, so I'll start by kind of the big local news here in Washington, D.C. is that the Rock Creek Park Golf Project is moving along. We're in a public scoping process right now. I encourage everybody to go to the National Links Trust podcast, where I sat down with a co-founder, Mike McCartan, to talk about their entire proposal for the rehabilitation of Rock Creek Park's golf course and really dive into all the details of what they're proposing. They actually just held a public scoping meeting last week, which you can find. I tweeted out a link to it. It's at the National Park Service website. There's a link to it as well on National Links Trust website. But you can kind of watch the public scoping meeting where members of the public and the community kind of ask questions about the project. There's a lot there. I encourage everybody to kind of check it out and to listen to the podcast. And, I'm certainly excited for it. We're probably still a year and a half away from having renovated, or a new clubhouse, I should say, and the driving range, and then another year after that. So probably not till the fall of 2025 before the new golf course, or I should say new golf courses, since it's going to be a 2 different 9-hole golf course, will finally be open for play. But it's exciting that these projects are officially, really tangibly moving forward and starting to see some of that process with the National Park Service go forward. So that's exciting. This podcast that we're doing today, I have 3 guests on, which I'll tell you about in a minute, but I recorded it from the show floor at the PGA Show conference down in Orlando, Florida, just last week. And so, I'll tell you a little bit about the show. I've been going for not super long. I think this is my 5th or 6th year going, skipped a year or 2, somewhere in there. And each year I've been going, you can notice it getting a little bit smaller due to some just industry trends and the way that golf companies do business with courses and clubs and the professionals, I think, has changed. And you talk to some of the old timers and they say how it was 5-10 times the size of it 25-30 years ago. But leading up to last year, because 2021 it was virtual because of COVID, and then 2022 COVID was still obviously lingering, it was real small compared to years past. And so this year it was definitely a lot bigger than last year, just not, still I think still will be a lot bigger in years to come. They do a demo day, which is at Orange County National, where club manufacturers and a lot of different companies can demonstrate their projects on this massive driving range in the round. That's definitely is not all the way back. Seems like companies aren't necessarily investing in that all that much. Cobra had a big tent out there. They had some celebrities, some long drive hitters. Kyle Berkshire was out there signing autographs. They had a DJ. But not many other companies really kind of invested in that, so the vibe was a little bit down. But then they do 2.5 days in the Orange County Convention Center, which is, it's a big deal. I don't know the numbers. This is anecdotally, but it feels like at the demo day there's maybe 50 or 60 companies, and then in the conference center there's like 700 or 800. It's massive. And it's still smaller than it was in years past. But I had a lot of fun. I ran into all sorts of people, meeting all sorts of companies. The kind of biggest change that you constantly see every year that is growing is the golf simulator business. There's golf simulator companies, and that kind of section of the conference just grows every year. Spent a bunch of time with a few, was in the TrackMan booth, was in the high definition golf booth for a while. Played a hole with a former podcast guest, Greg Pazinski, the coach of George Mason. We ran into each other at the Golf Zone booth, and we ended up playing a hole, kind of testing out their equipment. Golf Zone's got a real cool feature that I think is unique to them. I could be wrong, but where based on the geographical mapping of the courses that you're playing, it actually recreates the lie that you have. So you can have a side hill lie, uphill lie. If you're playing Augusta National and you hit in the fairway in 18, it's going to recreate that uphill lie up to your green, which I think is unique to them, which is pretty cool. But I spent some time at the Unicore booth. Unicore is the technology that's going into the brand new simulator business in Arlington called Par City, which I'm excited about. So it's cool to kind of talk with them, learn a little bit more about the technology, but also just ran into tons of people. Met some new faces that I was excited about. Ran into Tom Coyne in the media center. Chat with him for a couple minutes. Out at that demo day, I met the guys from the Chasing Scratch podcast. They were cool. Ran into, I don't know, at least 8 or 10 former podcast guests of the Beltway Golfer. So it's I still feel very much as an industry outsider, but that's becoming more of an insider, inch by inch every year. And so it's fun to kind of see familiar faces at a show like this. So I'll continue to go and look forward to it next year. Other kind of news, want to shout out to Marcus Bird, Washington, D.C. area native. He was on, I interviewed him along with Leonard Long on episode 6 of the National Links Trust podcast. He grew up playing at Langston Golf Course. That's kind of where he learned how to play golf. He was in the first tee of Greater Washington, D.C. when he was a youth. Now plays on the APGA Tour. And 2 things happened this week. One, he won the APGA event at Torrey Pines that was going alongside of and finished the day after the Farmers Insurance Open. But they're playing, I'm going to get this wrong, but they're playing on the opposite course of the pros, and then they play the tougher course on the final day. But Marcus Bird won, which got him into the Honda Classic. And then earlier in the week, before that tournament started, Tiger Woods announced that Marcus Bird was chosen as the Charlie Sifford recipient to play in the Genesis Invitational. So big week for Marcus Bird. If you're not familiar with him, go listen to that podcast on NLT or give him a follow. But really excited for him, and you'll see a lot of local DC golf accounts, a lot of people kind of giving him some praise because it's a big week for him. We officially, regardless of your opinion on Live Golf, we now officially have a professional golf tournament coming to the Washington, D.C. area in 2023. It's at Trump National D.C. It's going to be Memorial Day weekend. It had been rumored for a while. It wasn't that great of a secret, but it became official this week that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of Memorial Day weekend, which will be interesting because there's generally a massive influx of people to Washington, D.C. Memorial Day weekend. Rolling Thunder comes into a town. So it'll be interesting to have a professional golf tournament or exhibition, depending on how you view Live Golf, out of Trump National. I typically leave town on Memorial Day weekend, which I am this year as well, but I think I'm going to be around that Friday. So I'll try to get a press pass and go out to experience my first Live Golf event. It should be interesting to see, but it's professional golf in Washington, D.C. area, so I think it's exciting, regardless of how you feel about it. Another thing I'm also excited about is another announcement from National Links Trust. This is about the 10th time I've mentioned them in this introduction, but they announced they're bringing back kind of their version of the old USGA Pub Links Championship, which East Potomac hosted back in the early part of the 20th century. I forget the year, but they're going to host at East Potomac a national championship for public access golfers. It's going to be the first weekend of October. There's going to be qualifiers all over the country, and I might have to fact check this, but I believe, so it's public access. If you're a member of a private club, you're essentially not qualified to attempt to qualify for this championship, or you're now not allowed to enter, and you got to be at least 25 years old. So if you don't belong to a private course and you're at least 25, you can enter to try to win this public championship, which is pretty cool. I'm excited for that. I don't have the skill set to qualify, but I'll be there in some form or fashion covering it and watching. So it's a great idea by NLT. I'm excited for it. Lastly, I'm going to do a kind of a pre-announcement. I haven't announced on social media or anything yet, but save the date, Wednesday, June 7th. We're going to host a Beltway Golfer event out at Bretton Woods in Potomac, Maryland, way out River Road. That's going to be that afternoon, kind of a lunchtime start. Details are going to be finalized this week, but if you're listening to this, save the date, Wednesday afternoon, June 7th, out at Bretton Woods. We're going to have a big event. It's going to be fun. That's it. So let's get to the podcast. Again, this was recorded from the show floor, so you can hear a little bit of the buzz in the background. It was late afternoon on Wednesday of the conference, kind of the first full day inside the convention center. But we got the head golf professional from Gibson Island Club, which is a gated island with today a 9-hole private golf club with a ton of history right on the Chesapeake Bay. But we got their head golf pro, David Grossman, joining the podcast, followed by one of the co-founders of SuperSpeed Golf, which is an overswing training aid, Michael Napoleon, who I actually just met him at the show the day before, and we talked for a while, and I had somebody actually drop out from being on the podcast, and he mentioned that he'd love to do the podcast. I said, how about tomorrow? And so he was cool. He jumped on, and we talked about his products, which are now used, by all sorts of PGA Tour players, kind of ubiquitous in tour golf, kind of this speed training aids, and they were one of the first. And then third, a younger gentleman named Tyler McDaniel. He's the sole founder of Tyler Golf Bags, customizable carry bags, now stand bags as well. But I got to meet Tyler and his dad, who's a golf professional at Claremont Country Club in Northern California last year, just by chance, sitting at a bar after one of the show days in Orlando, and we kind of hit it off, and said the three of us were just kind of at the bar telling stories and having a lot of laughs. So it was cool to have Tyler back on and just kind of revisit that and see how his business is going. So it was a lot of fun. It was cool to kind of do something a little bit different, recording this literally on the show floor with tons of people walking by. Had a lot of fun. But hope you enjoy the conversation here as we'll get started. So first off is David Grossman from Gibson Island Club. Enjoy.
All right, we're going to start with Mr. David Grossman. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. It's a real treat.
I'm excited to speak with you. So you are and correct me anywhere that I'm wrong here.
All right, let's do this. Yep.
You're the head golf professional at Gibson Island Club?
That is correct.
So one of the reasons, so I'm going to let me get this out of the way real quick. I have not played Gibson Island.
Okay.
It's on my bucket list, and I hope to solve that at some point, but I haven't played it yet. So some of the questions are more from things I've read, things I've heard, things I've seen maybe online about Gibson Island. But one of the reasons I reached out to you was that just a month or so ago, you were awarded by the Mid-Atlantic PGA section as the Merchandiser of the Year for 2022. Do I have it right?
Yes, that's it, yep.
In the private club section?
Correct.
That's excellent. So, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
That's
It's an award that means a lot to me. All of my mentors are great merchandisers, and many of them had won it. So, within the section, there's maybe a dozen annual awards. It was the one that I always wanted to get. So this is kind of been a fun week to be at the PGA Show, see my name in a couple places, and really enjoy the professional recognition. It's pretty cool.
So I would imagine, a lot of certainly listeners to my show, they might not be super familiar with even that award. So what does the Mid-Atlantic PGA look at when they're looking at the Merchandiser of the Year? What goes into that?
So a group of peers will nominate you, and then that will begin an application process where you may fill out some questionnaires and provide images or accounting information that kind of gives people an insight into how the business is run.
Yeah.
And they give me the opportunity to kind of tell the story a little bit. So I talk about the logo a lot. We talk about how we do tons of team training and mentoring, how to get the staff involved. A little bit of how I even approach the PGA Show. So, they go through it, and then a panel of previous award winners select, and they were kind enough to pick me this year.
Got it. So you've been at Gibson Island how many years?
This is year 7 starting, so finish year 6, right around the corner. We're gonna be hitting balls.
How did you find yourself at Gibson Island Club?
Very uniquely, through a friend who had recommended to replace a retiring professional who had been there for 34 years. His name was Don Skackin. Don's a long time, just a legend of the club, a great part of the character and the personality of the place. And then just through some back channels, somebody asked if I had ever been interested in Gibson Island, and I never heard of it.
Oh, really?
You know, I worked in DC, and you know, you'd think, and maybe you know, but you know, I had to look it up, and I really had to kind of get into the research. And then I went down and I spent the day there, and they kind of said, you know, it's different, so can you see yourself doing something different? And that's kind of where we went.
So you were already a pro somewhere else. Where
Yes.
where were you before that?
Country Club of York in Pennsylvania, and then before that I was in Washington, D.C. in a nice private club at Chevy Chase, and then before that I kind of bounced back and forth between New Jersey and Florida.
Interesting. So that, I mean, that goes to a lot of kind of the mystique of Gibson
Yes.
Island Club, that you were a pro at multiple clubs before that and weren't even,
I
didn't
was
even know it
laughing when
existed.
you say that. You implied perfectly that, you know, it's kind of an under the radar, it's got a little story. I can't say how many times I say different when I describe the place. So yeah, it's definitely a little quiet little club, just on a really cool piece of land.
So, I mean, one of the reasons that it's becoming more well-known for, I think there's two big reasons. One, as golden age golf architecture has become, there's been more and more attention to it in the last 5, 10, maybe 20 years.
Absolutely.
And it was designed by Charles Blair McDonald and Seth Rayner, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So that's one big piece, and we can get into maybe a little bit of like the how it was formerly 18 holes and now it's 9. But the other piece of it is it's got, you know, one of the great logos in golf.
It's one of the best, and that's been a big reason that our merchandise concession does very well, and it kind of fits to the community nature of the club. It's very much almost like a resort, a private resort at sometimes, and you know, but people are there and they spend the day there and they're at the pool, and we put that logo on just about anything, and people are going to like it. So.
Do you know, is there anything you can share, because I don't
Yeah.
know, like what the history of the logo is?
So
Like,
it's a crabbing boat or an oyster boat.
Okay.
So the old skipjack sailboats that they used to use out on the flats. So in the morning, even now at Gibson Island, you know, we'll see the oyster guys and the crab guys kind of work in the water. And you know, today's boats are a little more modern than this one, but it's designed to be a sailboat that represents the community.
very cool. So has that been the logo like forever?
Pretty much so. Within the club, there are some other, you know, our other big one is our yacht club part of our business. So there's a full service yacht club at the club. They have a burgee, so they got a nautical flag.
Okay.
And they kind of really push that and really have a ton of pride in what the Gibson Island Yacht Squadron is. So they have a great logo too. But our club logo is wonderful, and we really just try to focus on it, keep it nice and clean, and let it sell itself.
So we're going to get into the show here in a minute, but while we go a little bit, you know, some folks I'm sure listening to this maybe don't know much about Gibson Island Club at all. I know I only really started learning about really the history of it in recent months or the last couple of years. So it used to be, it's a 9-hole course today, but at one time it was 18 holes.
Yeah, so McDonald and Rayner, working with the Olmsted brothers, who are master city planners, they laid out a 36-hole facility, which we have the drawings for. One golf course was built and opened by Rayner and opened in Memorial Day weekend of 1924. And then not long after, there were some financial issues with the island in the Depression era, and they decided to just keep 9 holes. So they kind of left these holes, let nature grow in around them. It's pretty dense forest. It's rather unique to go back there. You can find some of the greens and some of the tee boxes, so you can see a little bit of the history.
There's not like houses on them.
There's not, but it's just protected forestry. So it's a very special, you know, natural protection. But the interesting thing about the holes that were lost are, for those that are, you know, McRayner fans, that those were the real template holes. So when you talk McDonald and Rayner, you need to talk templates, and that's where the magical holes that we think once existed. We have a few templates on our 9-hole course now. We're hoping to see some more come back soon with some work, which we're excited about. But yeah, just a very unique story. But when I really look at the 36-hole facility, that's the one that gets me creatively thinking about what it could have been.
So the other 18 that was never built, is that now part of the community, or is that also on open land?
That is a little more residential,
Okay.
but pretty much all that land's off limits. So
Got it.
we're working with a fun little 9-hole place. The members have 2 sets of tees out there, so they can play a different routing to make sure that they don't get the same shots into the greens. Fair amount of actual 18-hole play, so people are out there to play.
Very cool. And so, because I've seen, I know, I follow Lester George on
Yes.
some of the social media, and he was posting over the last year or so. He's been doing some of the work on that you kind of referred to.
Yes, so Lester helped us with his company, George Golf Design. We wanted to begin the process for, you know, what would it take for us to do coursework, big coursework. So Lester worked with our club to, and especially again for the McDonald Rainer fans, to bring back a Redan template hole. So we had a unique hole that was on the golf course that was kind of from where the course cut off before.
Yeah.
So we kind of had a green that was in the wrong angle, and Lester came in and cleaned it up and put a masterpiece hole in.
Interesting. Because of this, I mean, I say it's in recent years, but it's been going on for a while now, this kind of resurgence of interest in golden age golf architecture. Are you seeing, like, how do you see the impact of that? Do you see more people trying to get invites out there?
I would say that, it's nice to be able to talk history. We'll put it that way. It's a great narrative when I can start a tournament and say, hey, this is why we're here today, and this happened because McDonald and Rainer, and this happened way back when, and we tie it into the junior programs and the merchandise concession, and it's really nice to have that narrative behind everything. But you definitely, like when I'm at the club, and when we have guests that come out, many a days we're out there talking architecture.
Yeah.
People want to talk about it, they want to get into it, and the fact that it's been hiding in Anne Arundel County for a long time,
Right.
it's a little sleeper.
Yeah. It was interesting. So two things. So one, I'm going to bring up the Golfer's Journal. The golfer Tom Coyne did a piece on Gibson Island Club. I'm not sure how long ago it was, but I reread it last night.
About 2 years ago.
It was that long ago? Oh, wow, okay. So I reread it last night, and what was interesting about it was Tom Coyne, who's like this really traveled golf writer. He had never heard of it, like before he got there.
So Tom's been very gracious to us. He wrote a great piece, I believe called Home is the Sailor, just an appropriately named or titled piece. He's a magical writer, and it was cool to have him really take a lot of initiative in writing that article. Tom's also come to the club to speak at night to promote one of his books, and he's been really wonderful, really a lot of fun to have.
And the other reason I brought Golfer's Journal up is I saw that they announced that they're going to have one of their events at the club in October?
October, yes.
Got it.
So we've been working with them, and beginning with Tom, he kind of started the relationship, and with the work that we had to do the course last year, we kind of had to take an off year. So we've been looking at this year with all 9 holes open. Let's have a great day, bring them out, and really showcase the club.
Very cool. Last question on the club. Is the membership, is it just residents of the island of Gibson Island, or does the membership extend beyond that?
The membership is greater than the island. So
Got it.
There's about 195 homes on the island, and then another almost all of those people are members, but not everybody is.
Got it.
It's a different business that they would have to kind of go through the steps for. And then we have another 2/3 of our membership is really commuting in, coming in for the weekend, staying a long week, summer rental. So that's where it kind of picks up that we are a local club, the full-time residents, but then a lot of influx of people coming in for the weekend and the weeks. We just want to have a good time.
Yeah. So how many years have you been coming to this show?
Well, the PGA Show for me about 10 to 12 years probably.
Okay. So you've seen, I've only been coming, this is like my 4th or 5th time. I think my first year was maybe 2015, 2016, I can't remember. But even in that time, I've seen a lot of changes here. Even 10 years ago, how different was this show?
I guess it depends on what you're here to educate yourself on or buy. Definitely, just looking around today, I'd say, there's a lot more technology stuff still pumping out.
Yeah.
Like more flights or in-home launch monitor systems and simulators and all that. I mean, it's definitely, you can feel the different areas. There's maybe a little less from some of the equipment vendors.
Yeah.
They for over the years, some have taken a pass on a couple of years. But for me, like my big thing is I just try to find a couple things I knew I wouldn't find anywhere else. Because if I'm here, I'm on my feet, I can see it, I can test it. And then really to network and social and say hi to people that you've built relationships with for the last 15 years.
Are you placing orders at a show like this?
I'll do some. I always try to make sure that I find either a new junior line or a new women's line that there's an order in already. Most of my annual business is ordered before this point. Being close to 95 has its perks. The reps will come to us, but there are some people that they do need to come here from somewhere else around the world or the country to finally have the ability to buy something. So,
yeah.
But you can definitely also all the new products. It's different countries are here. I mean, it's a trade show.
Yeah. So I was looking. There was a checklist. I was kind of looking on the Mid-Atlantic PGA website, and there was a couple things. I wanted to pull it up here on how they describe the qualifications for that award, the Merchandiser of the Year. But there was a couple things that I wanted to point out, merchandising philosophy and merchandising techniques. From someone from the outside looking at pro shops, you know, it kind of seems like a lot of pro shops are similar. Is that not the case? I mean, do you have truly like unique merchandising techniques?
You know, I think that we're having fun with it, and what I don't want is for our members and guests that come in to not be able to find anything. So let's say from a philosophy standpoint, we choose to have a higher inventory than maybe a business model would state, because we want people to come in and almost be like, I have to get something, right? There is a seasonal part of running a business at Gibson Island that in the winter, I don't need as much, but still need to have it. So there's some philosophy there. Now on technique, yeah, there's little tricks, and even if I go into any department store, whether it's Nordstrom's or I'm always looking around to see what they're doing, right? Sure. And kind of picking up little notes here and there. Going to other clubs, visiting really good golf shops nationally, taking a couple pictures and following a few Instagram accounts, really, and learning how to, as we call it, paper fold. So there are folding techniques, great ways to really take care of it and make sure that when it sits on the table, it looks better longer. And there's some strategy there. You want to have great displays visually. Somebody taught me years ago, you either want to make it the nicest thing in the room or the worst thing in the room, but somebody's got to have a thought about it, right? So if you're not moving it around every day, using mannequins appropriately, so there's tricks to make it pop, but you want to have fun too, whether it's through sporting ideas or themed holiday weekends, like July 4th.
Are your members giving you ideas? Like when they know that you're coming down to the show and you're going to see all these vendors, they're like, hey, I saw this, whatever.
Well, I'll always take a good idea, we'll put it that way. So, hey, sometimes people will come and say, you really need to take a look at, and I'll go figure out the business side of it and say, maybe it's not the best move for us, but I'll always take great, recommendations. And but again, coming down here, I'm always trying to, what won't I find if I stay home and don't do this with a group of professionals? So.
Are there any brands or companies that you work with that have been real successful in your shop that are maybe here, or maybe that you only put in your shop in the last few years that have done well?
Yeah, and that's what I'm always trying to find, those good little ones, especially for the women's and juniors. Been a bunch, but I always try to find a new one every year and get people to think that the golf shop at Gibson Island is not a golf store. It's a true retail boutique. So things like women's dresses have done very well, scarves, certain junior items, and then if they're successful for me and we keep reordering, I'll start to people pick that up, and the pros from the other clubs are like, hey, what's that line you got down there that all my members are buying from you? Yeah. I'm like, here you go. So we definitely have those, but it's all good.
Yeah. See anything? I'll let you go here in a second. Have seen anything at this year's show that kind of jumped out at you, or any brand that
aside from the pickleball court down there, that was pretty interesting to see.
Does Gibson Island have pickleball? Have you guys?
We do have pickleball.
Okay.
There's one around the corner, and that got me laughing. The winners this year, I found a good candle company, some good junior stuff, good women's line. I try to find a lot of gift items. Signs by the Sea has always been a big one for us over the years. But I'm really not looking for clothing. I'm just looking for good ideas.
Got it. Do you sell clubs in your shop?
We do.
You do, okay.
But on the percentages, my store or house does less, but we do, we do more in soft goods than the average club.
Got it.
Well, there's the equipment side, hard goods, and then there's the clothing side. Our clothing business is very stout.
Because it's such that kind of an iconic logo, and it's certainly the Gibson Island Club logo is popular amongst I don't know if it's like the Instagram crowd, but it kind of is.
It does.
Like, can you sell it? Do you sell it online? Like, do you sell it, or does someone have to actually go to the pro shop on Gibson Island to actually buy something with that logo on it?
I don't know how I'm supposed to answer this question, but most of our business is members buying for their families or friends, and then their guests coming in. We do have some e-commerce options, but that's kind of run through our membership, so it's internal. We're really not doing much off the street business. And that's one of the unique things about having a retail store at a private club is you don't have necessarily walk-in traffic. Your whole core base is just your however many hundred members you have.
Yeah, very cool. Well, listen, congratulations
Thank you
very much on your award for the Mid-Atlantic PGA, the Merchandiser of the Year 2022 in the private club category. Maybe I'll be out there in the Golfers Journal event, but I hope to play Gibson Island.
We'll have
soon.
to stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dave. Thanks for joining us. Michael Napoleon, you are the founder of SuperSpeed Golf. Do I have that right?
That's correct.
Are you the sole founder? Or you have a
No,
co-founder?
so business partner of mine, we founded together, Kyle Shea. So a little history on that. We actually ran a golf academy business in the Chicago area for about 10 years. Really the goal there was putting like tour level teams around amateur golfers. So we had, golf coaches, that was kind of my area, and I ran that team. Equipment fitters, fitness professionals, rehab specialists, nutritionists, I mean all of it. Like we're gonna treat you like a tour player, make sure that
And
your
you would
game is
package
at high.
that for like that up and coming pro.
We would package that for your country club golfer that just wants to win more money on the weekend. And in that market, man, there were a lot of them. Like, honestly, like you offer a product that offers people real results. I mean, real results that are accountable, that you can measure and you can show the metrics on the various different things they're getting better about their game, their handicap goes down. In my opinion, you can charge whatever you want for that in the golf world.
What was your? So that business doesn't exist anymore, right? So,
I sold it, so
Okay.
that business is still running. One of the guys that coached for us there, his name's Marty Evans, still runs that business in Chicago. So Catalyst Golf Performance. But yeah, we
I was gonna ask like what the pricing model for that was.
Charge-
If you're able to share that.
we charge $16,000 a year for the program, and the difference between that and like your normal golf lesson program is that if somebody called and wanted a golf lesson, I told them that's not what we did. We don't teach golf lessons. They're like, well, I thought you were a golf academy. I'm like, well, we are, but until I know a lot about what's going on in your game and your body and your swing and your equipment and everything, I'm not going to be able to make an educated, program that's going to help you get better. So we always started that with a large intake and assessment process that looked at all of those different areas so that we could very specifically say, no, you need a golf lesson a week. You need team coaching with these players to do competitive practice and different types of things like that. You need 3 days a week in the gym. We were the experts. We were recommending what that program looked like.
So what that team comprised of might be different from client to client.
Every client needed something different. One guy might need a whole lot of golf instruction because they had no clue what they were doing. The next guy might have a really good concept of what they're trying to do and their body wouldn't let them do it. So we had the people to help all those different areas.
And a
that's
good
what we did.
percentage of that client base was not professionals or people trying to be professionals?
Absolutely. I would say 95% of that was amateur golfers that, look, you start to look at your business executives and your guys that are members at high-end country clubs and things. These guys take their golf game pretty damn seriously. They don't, you're in the DC area, right? I lived in DC for a while. I was a member at Lakewood Country Club.
Okay, sure.
I can tell you flat out that, our inter-club master gets congressional. We weren't leaving anything on the table. We were pretty serious. People wanted to win, and they're going to do a lot what it takes. And a lot of those people have enough time to really put that kind of effort into their game.
Yeah. Interesting. We're going to come back to that. We'll circle back to your time in the DC area towards the end. But so continue on. How did you launch SuperSpeed?
Yeah. So in that type of environment where we had really smart professionals in a lot of different areas, it was like a think tank that we were trying to come up with the most innovative ways to, coach players and help them get better. And we were looking for different types of training science, training techniques that were going to get the most bang for our buck. Plus, we had all the great technology, all the greatest technology you can imagine. All the different 3D motion capture systems and launch monitors and all the stuff that we needed to know what was actually going on, when we were doing this training. So we saw a presentation by Dr. Tom House at a TPI function, a World Golf Fitness Summit, where he was talking about what he was doing with Major League Baseball pitchers and NFL quarterbacks, using different weighted throwing implements to help increase arm speed and help these players increase how fast they can throw a ball or throw a football. We looked at that and took it back to our academy, spent about 2 years really looking at what we needed to do to adapt that type of training, which at that time was called overload underload training, and adapt that type of training for swinging sports like golf. And that just involved really making sure that we had the right types of weight differentials of the clubs that we were using relative to the player's driver to optimize that training.
I'm thinking, because I've never done any of this training. Truth be told, I think I've swung one of your products a few times, but I've never really done any work with it.
Well, would you like to hit the ball further?
Oh, of course I would. I need to hit the ball.
Do you have 45 minutes a week that you'd be willing to dedicate to hitting the ball 20 yards further off the tee?
I think I could set aside 45 minutes a week for that.
Okay, well, I'm not sure why you haven't started doing it yet. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, that's fair. Well, where I was going with this was like when I think about this at the most basic level, because it's not a training program, but literally like playing baseball. You know, I played some baseball, growing up as a teenager, and swinging 2 bats before you get in the batter's box.
Yeah.
And it's just more weight. Swing as hard as you can, and then you get up there, and it feels light as a feather. And
All right, so actually that's exactly the opposite of what we do.
all right, never mind.
All right, completely the opposite and doesn't work. So the science on that is this.
That doesn't work?
Not at all. So there's actually a great study done with like collegiate baseball players where they used like a 30% heavier donut on the bat to do a warm-up.
Okay.
And when they got into the batter's box, the first swing out of the gate was on average 25% slower than their normal bat speed. And that's actually the exact problem that I think was out there before we came along, is that people didn't understand how our brain connected to our body.
Why
Okay?
is that? What is
So
the-
here's the thing, and this is why we call it overspeed training now, because we think that's much more descriptive of the actual science that's going on in the body. So every motion that we know how to do lives in our brain as a motor program. When we step on the first tee, our brain selects that motor program, and we pull the trigger. Now your brain has an expectation of how fast your body's going to respond in that given process, okay? So what overspeed training does is like the opposite of a donut. We're actually going to start with a club that's lighter than your driver, just enough that your brain still selects the same motor program, but the lessened resistance allows your body to move faster. So like for example, when you use our green club in our SuperSpeed set, you can swing that about 19 to 20% faster than what you can swing your driver. So if you're at 100 miles an hour, you get this green club in your hand, you can swing it like 120 miles an hour.
Okay.
In just a handful of swings, your brain starts to expect your body to respond at 120 miles an hour. So then we shock the system, we add some resistance back by going to a club that's a little bit heavier, and and then we're still going to see the brain trying to get this faster response out of the body. We usually see about 115 to 116. Then we're going to give you a club that's even slightly heavier than the driver, not nearly as much as like that big donut, but about 5% heavier. We'll still see that player swing about 10 to 12% faster than their normal golf swing, or overspeed of everything they were doing before. And over time, that training process permanently changes the actual speed of your golf swing into something that when we put the skill elements back in and we actually hit a ball, usually averages out to about 5.5% faster than what you were doing before.
The only word I'm skeptical of is the permanently.
Yeah.
You say permanently. I mean, you have to keep it up, don't you?
So you will see that jump in speed of 5% the very first time you do this training. I mean, literally, the first time you do this training, if you measure your speed before the session and after, you'll see a 5% jump. Over the course of the next 6 to 8 weeks, what you would see is the starting speed you'd have will gradually creep up, and the jump speed's not going to really go any higher. So you see this like period of normalization where after that 8-week period, the starting speed's the same as the after speed, and you kind of reach your first little plateau phase of the training. But that's really what we're looking at. It takes about 6 to 8 weeks to create permanency. After that point, we go into what we would call a maintenance phase of the training, where we can reduce the frequency. Instead of doing it 3 days a week, we can reduce it down to about 1 day a week, and you'll maintain 100% of those gains at that point, even with that lessened training.
Wow. There's a lot of truth to all of this, because your business is doing quite well, and you've got how many tour players that are using this?
I mean, we stopped counting at a point a few years ago when we got over like 1,000 that had active programs going. But yeah, I mean,
1,000 professional
I would
golfers?
say we've had 2/3 of the active tour players in the world. They're either actively working with a program with our products or have in the last few years. So it's not really just become a device that these players use. This has become a segment of their training that didn't exist before. Like if you ask players 10 years ago if they had a specific speed training regimen, they didn't. And now all of them have a speed training regimen that's separate than the mechanical work they're doing or the physical work they're doing. It's its own lane now. And I think that's a really cool thing that we've helped bring to the industry.
And you said you started your company, you said 2014?
Yeah, so SuperSpeed Golf started in the fall of 2014.
And when did you really start getting traction on like the professional level?
We had players working with it even before we launched. So there have been we work really closely with TPI, and a lot of the players that have worked through TPI were doing some of that training. We started to see a lot of them that were doing it but not talking about it. You know, one of the big kind of breakthrough moments is we actually had a Billy Horschel bought a set on the website, and then about 2 weeks later posted a video of him doing the training in his basement on social media, and that was fantastic. And we sent him a nice little note and thanked him and sent him a couple sets for the road. And he's been a big proponent of the system for a long time, which has been really cool.
So part of what you guys sell, like essentially the hardware, the clubs, but you also sell like a training program as part of it.
So our model at SuperSpeed Golf, number one, has been to keep things as stupid simple as we possibly can so that people can get benefit out of our products. But what we've always just, the formula that we use with everything that we've sold is we have a physical product that you're going to need to use. We have a very specific training program that gives you step-by-step instructions of how to use the product. And we have a very specific result that you can expect to get when you start doing one of these programs. And that formula in the training aid space, I would say, is rare. There's not a lot that will do all of those different pieces and have a really clearly expected result.
Yeah.
So I think that's been a big piece that's helped us, for the years that we've been really pushing all of our speed training products.
But for the consumers out there, it's optional, right? You can buy the full program with the training program.
It's all free.
Oh, that's all that just comes.
So when you buy the program, we consider all that training content. Why would you buy a product that you don't know how to use?
Sure.
It doesn't make any sense.
Like that's how most products are.
Well, I mean, we do things differently. I don't know what I can say. We've thought that there's been problems in that sense. But I mean, as a coach who's hugely into the whole motor learning concepts and all of that, like, if I'm going to give somebody a program, I'm only giving them that program or that training product or whatever it is because there's a performance deficit that I'm trying to fix. I'm not just doing it because I'd made it up or I decided it was something good for you to do. There's going to be, and this goes back to our academy business too, if you're getting a drill from us, it's because there's a specific performance deficit that drill is going to make better. And we're going to be able to tell if the drill made it better and test where that result is. And we need to have that accountability. I think we all should have that accountability as coaches or, companies that are doing training products, or we're really not helping the people we're trying to help. We're just selling them things. When you're buying SuperSpeed Golf, you're not just buying a product or a training program, you're buying 20 more yards off the tee, and we're there to support you all along the way so that you can get that 20 yards off the tee, because that's what you really want.
For consumers that are looking to get into your program, get into your products, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're in some big retailers now, right?
Absolutely.
You can be found in some of the big box golf retailers.
Mm-hmm. We're pretty much everywhere at this point. We have club accounts at probably your local pro shop at your golf course. We're in Dick's Sporting Goods, Golf Galaxy, PGA Tour Superstore, all your worldwide golf shops, and you can get those things directly from us at our website, superspeedgolf.com as well. So everything is really, we're trying to make it available because there's a lot of people out there that want 20 yards off the tee, and it's in our benefit obviously to help them find it.
I've noticed, and this is probably a compliment as much as anything with any business when you're successful, but there's at least one or two. I don't know if you call them.
We have some competitors now.
Are there differences between?
There's other systems that are out there that have maybe tweaked one thing here or there, or made their systems more customizable, or different things like that. I can tell you this though. We do more research and data collection than probably anyone on the planet when it comes to our products. And I can tell you definitively, if we could find a way to make what we're doing better, it would have already been released. And that's kind of the thing. Yes, there's been some slightly altered versions of different overspeed training systems coming out, and that just tells me that overspeed training works. And there can be slight alterations. It's still going to work, but we think, and we've kind of shown with all the research we've done, that our programs and our protocols are still the most efficient way, to get faster in your golf swing, and they're definitely going to be the easiest to use, which has really been our goal from the start.
I should have asked this earlier, but one of the things I think about because I would probably be able to answer this more if I'd actually use your product a bunch. But when I think of trying to gain speed, especially through a tool like that, my concern, and this comes from a place of not knowing, but my concern is that it's going to mess with my swing.
Yep.
When people have that concern, what do you say?
So I would say this, the golf swing is one of the most athletic motions in all of sport. It doesn't take long to, it's a short motion and it's extremely powerful. I think one of the things that many golf coaches get wrong is they try to focus too much on the detailed mechanics and positions of the swing and forget that it's that powerful athletic motion. So one of the things that we find with our products is that it helps people make a more complete athletic golf swing. We see as they're doing the different drills in our protocols, they become more efficient with the way they swing the golf club. And honestly, I'll share a study that we just did last year that Tyler Standiford did out in Utah. He's a biomechanics professor that does a lot of research, independently, but with our products. Yeah. And it was an on-course performance study where he actually had players play 10 rounds of golf and geotag with shot scope every single shot that they hit on the golf course. Then we had those players go through a 6-week speed training protocol, which is our level 1 training protocol, SuperSpeed, go back out on the golf course and geotag another 10 full golf rounds. Okay? Interesting results on this. We saw a 5% increase in distance when we looked at their drives, which is what we would expect. We see that across the board now with thousands and thousands of data points. What we didn't necessarily guarantee to see, even though we theorized that we were going to see this because of an increase in efficiency in those golf swings, an increase in athleticism, is we saw those players' accuracy off the tee increase by over 10%. So not only are those players hitting it further, they're hitting it a lot straighter, they're hitting less shots into penalty areas, they're hitting less shots into the rough, and then as you might expect with those numbers, we saw their average score per round go down by an average of 2.7 shots.
That's real data.
So that's real data. That's a real independent university level study. And what I think is really cool about that is that kind of proves some of the things we've been saying for a long time, is that when golfers get out of their own way and they learn to be more efficient and more athletic with their golf swing, good things happen. And those good things include hitting it further, those good things include hitting in the fairway more, and those good things include scoring better.
Tell us a little about, so we met yesterday out at the demo day here at the PGA Show, and I tried your newest product.
Yep.
Which is really all about grip strength.
Yeah, so the SuperSpeed Squeeze, I'm kind of proud of that name. I think it's very descriptive of what the product does. We launched that back in December. The SuperSpeed Squeeze is all about helping players increase their grip strength, basically their hand, finger, and forearm strength. We did that because we collect a lot of data on our players back in the academy days, and we have a lot of data through TPI with everybody that's out on tour. And the gap between what we see on professional tours as far as how much grip strength those players can produce and how much grip strength amateur players can produce is maybe one of the hugest differentials in any metric we've measured in the game of golf. So it's a huge deal. And having enough grip strength allows you to do a lot of things. Well, speed and power aside, I mean, that's definitely a piece of it, but really it's just about being able to control the club during the golf swing. If you don't have enough grip strength, you have to use nearly 100% of the capacity of grip strength you do have in order to control the golf club. That's going to feel like death grip in the golf club. That's going to limit your range of motion in your wrists and hands. It's going to cause a whole lot of things that aren't going to be good for your golf game. Whereas we see those high-level players maybe using 55, 60% of their capacity of grip strength in the golf swing dynamically, which is, I would say, in some ways more ideal to allowing them to do a lot of good things in their golf swing. So, yeah, and it's a big thing. I don't think it's talked about at all. I don't think many golf coaches measure it or even know it could be a problem for players. Yeah. I think it's a solid epidemic in the world of amateur golf that players do not have enough grip strength to control the golf club the way they want to.
I was just last week out at a Peak Golf Fitness in Rockville, Maryland. Shout out to the owner, Jason there, who he told me a stat about grip strength, which is like, you hear the stat about, really good golfers, they grip the club like 80% of their full grip strength. But he said, but professional golfers have grip strength that is, I forget what the number was, but it was like 30 to 40% higher than the average person. So their 80% is still higher than the average person.
We actually see it's less than 80%. So really? On average on PGA Tour, where you're really more around 55 to 60% of capacity. The problem is they have so much more, as you say. The amateur golfer can't use 50% of their capacity, or literally the club's flying out into the range. Like they can't, like they wouldn't create enough friction on the grip to hold onto the golf club.
Yeah.
So they have to use 75, 80, 90% of their capacity just to hold onto the club. And that's where we start to run into the issue, because as a golf coach, I would love for every one of my players to feel like they're using light grip pressure and not death gripping the club and allowing full range of motion in their hands and wrists and arms. But again, I can't tell that to everybody, because a large portion of those people physically can't do that.
Very cool. And so what's the name again?
SuperSpeed Squeeze.
SuperSpeed Squeeze.
So that's got a training protocol just like all of our other products that is specifically designed to help players improve their grip strength.
And you can buy that like direct to consumer on your website?
Absolutely.
What's your website?
SuperSpeedGolf.com.
SuperSpeedGolf.com. Before I let you get out of here, so let's bring it back to the DC area a little bit.
Yeah.
So how long ago you live in Rockville, Maryland?
So we moved there in 2017, and
recently.
I only lived there for like a year and a half. So I wasn't there for a long time, but moved to Denver, Colorado in the end of 2018.
And that's where you are now.
That's where I am.
But the company's based still they're the offices in Chicago?
It's still in Illinois, so all of our warehousing and fulfillment happens out of Batavia, Illinois, which is about an hour west of Chicago. We started the businesses there, so yeah, that's why our name tags still say Illinois. But our team's all remote. We were remote before the whole COVID deal. I mean, we have employees all over the world, and we meet a lot on Zoom. So
very cool. How big's the team now?
We have eight total members on the team right now.
Very cool. Well, that sounds like you got a heck of a business, and I'll be a customer of yours here soon.
Outstanding. Well, I look forward to it. I want you to, actually go through the speed training process. I want to see what your results are, because, like I said, it's fun to hit it further.
I'll do that and report back to you. So our third guest for the podcast here at the PGA Show is a gentleman that I met we'll tell the story, but I met kind of randomly at last year's show. Tyler McDaniel of Tyler Golf Bags. How are you?
Good.
So last year, well, let's start. So Tyler Golf Bags. So how long have you had Tyler Golf Bags? Like when did you start?
We're just over 3 years.
Just 3 years.
Yeah, first sale actually I remember was February 10 of 20. February 10 of 20 was the first time.
So a month before COVID.
Cash came.
Like a month before COVID.
Correct.
Really hit.
Correct. Which is crazy, yeah.
And your whole, like what Tyler Golf Bags is, I'm going to try to do it without,
For sure.
Before you, I mean, you started highly customizable carry bags.
Yes, for sure.
Right?
Yeah, that was always the basis. So I guess we're going right into that question, which is the answer to that is basically, I saw a need for cool stuff because I myself thought if I'm going to buy it, like I'm not alone. And I started to more and more think, as I talked to buddies, like, wouldn't this be cool? And then my buddies would be like, yeah, like, fuck, I'd give 200.
Meaning you weren't seeing when you were.
Okay.
When you were, like, that idea came from, you were trying to customize your own golf bag, and too many of the golf bag companies out there just couldn't.
100%.
Have that flexibility.
Yeah, I remember especially in high school, me and my buddies we'd see the bags on the rack, and we'd be like, oh, that one, it was all about skinny. That's all we cared about was if it was skinny. That's all we cared about.
Like the bag profile?
Yeah, just
because we thought staff bags and like.
And then even the stand bags, they were like,
too big.
Like it's cool, but it's still too big. We're like, dude, what's up? Like, why are they not skinny? We thought skinny equals good. It was our consensus.
Of, like, that's what was trendy, or just you wanted lighter, or like it was just that it looked good to you.
I mean, we were 7, 6, 15, in high school. We were trying to look cool, and we thought that skinny was what was cool. And then obviously patterns and such comes with it. I mean, and gaining the ability to put patterns was obviously a breakthrough. Something that,
I love it.
I'm really stoked that we're able to do.
I'm going to be jumping around your timeline here a little bit.
Please.
But so last year, at this show, before we'll run into the story at the bar, but like before that, you were like one of the more recognizable people on the show floor because you're just walking around the show with a bag over each shoulder.
Yes.
Which I noticed you're doing again this year.
We are. due to prior success, we are still doing what I've been today calling the two-legged booth.
The two-legged booth.
Because everyone's
Yeah,
like, oh,
exactly.
where's your booth? Where's your this?
Hey,
Where's
you
your that?
can't be in a bad spot. They can't give you a bag
No,
location in the back corner.
you can't
if you've
complain
got
about
you've got a mobile booth.
You can't complain about getting screwed about your booth location if it's a two-legged one, or you're lazy.
So how did that go last year? And how I guess
Really well.
And this year, like
Honestly, today was weird. The first 2 hours, nothing. Like I was a ghost.
you just wandered
I'm not
around with
kidding.
bags of your
I was walking around and I was a ghost.
Okay.
I couldn't believe it. And then like I don't know what switched, but something happened, and after that, I'm not kidding. I walked around with a couple of people. They're like, dude, like everyone's looking at you. I'm like, dude, because I'm wearing Sunday bags.
Yeah.
And then flipped a switch, and then everyone just was looking at the bags all of a sudden. But the first 2 hours was weird, like nothing. I was just walking around like I was Casper the Ghost. But then after that, and then I see someone looking. Oh, here you go. You know, business card.
I was gonna say looking at the bags is one thing, but I mean, does it translate? I mean, to a relationship at least, or like a.
Funny you say that. I'm gonna go
ideally
in a quick personal knock is I only came with 20 business cards, and I spent an hour at FedEx, right in the building, making 100 business cards that I just had made.
Sure, but I mean that's what the QR code's for. I mean,
True.
no one's scanning them.
But anyways, turning into sales, yeah, I think so. Actually, on the way over, I ran into the guys that own Loudmouth now. They just acquired Loudmouth a year ago, and they were gung ho. They were gung ho. Like large. We're wanting to do large quantity.
Is John Daly still on the?
I didn't get into that. Because someone asked me that right in between that and now.
John Daly used to be a spokesman.
But they mention it as, oh, this is he's on since we acquired a year ago. Was the only terminology I acquired. But
so, what your business kind of is now, and really when I talk about your business, like what I've done on your website a whole bunch.
Appreciate it.
I'm embarrassed to say that I've not placed an order yet, but that's a me issue. That's not a
we
you
don't
issue.
pressure. We don't pressure. Yeah, we just have the system.
What's really cool about your website is you can go do the full customization of like
Certainly.
every single piece of the bag. You know, the leather on the bottom, the strap, the buckles, and you can do different colors, different preloaded designs, or you can upload any design.
Any design.
So I've been fiddling around with a lot of like my Beltway golfer designs, and I'm just too in my head about getting it perfect. That's the only reason I haven't done it yet, but I've got like a few like screenshots saved.
Hey,
so we're gonna get there.
You gotta wait till it's perfect. I mean, I'm fully with you.
I would imagine that piece of it has been part of your success.
Oh, it's awesome. And honestly, I think that tool is so amazing and different from anything that exists in golf. And honestly, I think just our ability to broadcast that to everyone is what's holding us back.
Right.
Basically, I think that tool is freaking amazing. Like, does that exist elsewhere? Mackenzie does have one at a larger price point, certainly a larger price point. But
it exists on some other types of products.
It exists, certainly.
Like
They have it on a golf bag, so we're not the only one to do it on a golf bag. But for the price point, $200, I think it's incredible.
That's much different.
I just feel like 100%. I just feel like we need to get the word out.
Sure, absolutely.
You know,
very cool. So your story. So your first sale was February of 2020.
Yep.
So last year, after I noticed you kind of walking around, I think it was the second day of the show. It was maybe the Wednesday. The guy I was here with, he left early, so I'm by myself. I went to the bar across the street. I couldn't find anywhere. Like, I didn't have a reservation anywhere. I didn't have any parties to go to. Just kind of wandered around by myself. And the only seat at a table or bar stall I could find was that Bahama Breeze. It's right across the street.
this is a legendary story. My dad honestly mentions this once on mine.
I mean, it's probably one of those.
He's like, oh, the guy from Bahama Breeze? Oh, that guy's hilarious.
Yeah. It's probably not going to be that great of a story for listeners, but it was. You had to be there.
Yeah, for sure.
It was more like it was just a really fun time. So I sat down at the bar. Bahama Breeze was there for a little while, and then you guys sat down. You and your father sat down next to me.
Correct.
Really, the only reason we started up conversations is I recognized you because of the guy carrying around the bags all day. And I think I may have even already paid my check, maybe, and we ended. I think I didn't leave for another 2 hours. because we kept
talking.
and you guys were great. Like, so your dad
And he kept going in. This is a podcast. Like you're podcast guy. I remember you kept saying that. That was what it was had me dying.
So
But yeah,
tell the audience like what about your dad and then your mom
certainly,
as well.
Certainly. So basically grew up in a large golf background. My dad's been a pro at Claremont in Oakland, which is it's really cool Mackenzie Golf, Alistair Mackenzie Golf Course. He's been there upwards of 25, no, probably like 24 years, I would guess.
What's your dad's full name?
Jay McDaniel.
Okay.
And then my mom's been coaching at Cal Berkeley for about the same amount of time. I want to say 25 years.
Do I have it right? And correct me if I'm wrong. Did she found
Yes,
the
started the program.
started
Was the
women's program.
first coach at UC Berkeley.
She's still the coach.
Yes,
That's pretty bad.
as of right now, yes. Not that she's leaving, but she's close to retiring.
I got it. Okay. That's pretty cool.
People might be listening in 10 years. I mean, but anyways, so that. But then, me being me and very, how do I say this, stubborn kind of. I never wanted to be charity case guy, you know. So I was like, okay, I can still use my knowledge, but not get boosted up by what they, are in golf, basically. So I didn't want to get something, get free stuff, Sure. So I'm like, okay, well, I can still use my golf knowledge because I played college golf. I'm really into it. I can still use that and sell stuff because I've seen their jobs. They love them. They're good at them, but it's not for me. I've always thought I wanted to sell stuff, and I know golf. And next thing you know, selling golf goods. And
I forget, you played some competitive golf yourself?
yeah, I played college, junior college, and then as well as NAIA. But yeah, college golf.
Yeah.
I played at like a 1 right now.
So I mean, I totally get it, and getting the business off the ground, totally independent.
That was the word I've been reaching for. Yeah.
But it's cool because your dad is, like last year he was kind of cruising on the show, but your dad's got his own stuff to do.
100%.
He's got his own meeting.
No, I know. We walked in here and he's like, all right, I got a meeting.
I'll see you later.
Him and he's the director of golf, and then his assistant or his head pro came, and they're like, all right, see you, bro. And then it's funny, like 2 times today I actually did run into him. Like I'm just in a booth and I'm like, they're talking to the guy and I'm like, oh shit, that's them. So I'm like hitting him on the shoulder like, hey, what's up, dude? It's like, oh shit. Yeah, and then honestly, I don't recommend it for everyone because I'm kind of a psycho, but the walking around with 2 bags maneuver today was unbelievable. Post noon, you would not believe how many business cards I gave out, how many people, and then you walk by some people, oh, that bag, it's so great. You know what I mean?
Do you have, because the other, I mean, but it's kind of a double marketing move. Because one, like you said, you're really mobile. It's the
Certainly.
The two,
Certainly.
The booth on 2 feet. But also you're kind of showing how light it is.
Certainly.
Like I'm walking
Yeah, I never
around,
even thought about that.
I'm walking around with 2 bags, not getting tired. Like, how heavy's your bag?
100%. No, I'm with that. And you know what is funny is even something that's 2.9 pounds.
Is that the number? It's 2.9?
Yes.
Okay.
After a couple hours of carrying something that's 2.9 pounds, it does.
Sure.
Why would you ever do that? You know?
Right.
And then last year and this year, it was the only time I would ever walk around with something that's 2.9 pounds for hours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For thousands of steps, because I'm just doing up and backs basically.
Yeah. I do that on the golf course. Just got so much crap in my pockets. Really unorganized.
And so it is. You kind of got to be.
But one other reason I think your bags are really cool is to that point. Like my bag, I basically only carry. I'm kind of obsessed with this old King L8 stand bags.
Oh, nice.
So
the L8.
Yeah, I've
That's
got like 5 of them.
That bag is. That was the only one that was up to my standards. Wait, was the E2 the more popular one, or is the L8? I'm gonna have to go do more research. Is it super skinny or just kind of skinny?
It's not
Okay. But yeah,
overly
but the
skinny.
L8
Yeah.
certainly.
The L8 was
Anyways,
super
go.
popular.
Yeah. Anyways,
And it's
back
one
to
with
what
all
you're
the
saying.
different colorways.
Yeah. That's a great bag.
Yeah.
Probably what I would use if I didn't. If this ever happened.
I need to update.
Certainly.
Because all the ones I found, all the ones I have, and I switch every 10 or 20 rounds. either eBay, Craigslist, yard sales, that kind of
For
thing.
sure, for
And
sure.
So they're not like
That used to be me.
I didn't buy them new, and so a lot of them, they're frayed and they're kind of rough shape. Some of them are dirty than others. But I mean, this is like the new generation of that, and I love it.
I think so. It's just style where style has not yet reached, basically, to the masses. Like style, in everything. Skechers, these tees, they're pink. There's pink tees. There's orange this. There's orange that. Like what the golf. That was the biggest thing. Is the golf bag hadn't gotten that yet, basically.
Yeah.
The treatment of no, we're gonna make this stylish so each person does it differently.
So recently, you just got a stand bag.
Did so yeah. Basically,
Was that because people were like, I love your bags, but I want to get a stand bag, or
Yes.
that's just something you wanted to do the whole
no,
time?
100%. It was, and I think it's great. I don't have anything against a stand bag. I mean, I don't think it throws my mission statement out the window. A lot of people are like, dude, make a stand bag.
Yeah.
But in doing so, it's like, I was always like, it's gonna be my stand bag, It's not gonna be like Ping's great. It's not gonna be a Ping, It has to be so big. Yeah, it's basically one of the things of the stand. It's funny.
We've got some cool
we
stuff.
figured
You've got,
it out.
A range finder.
Yeah,
little
it's got
holder.
that on there. Yeah, that's stock on
Use that those as
everything.
well. Oh, it does. That's slick.
It's actually better on this, but
All the magnetic closure and everything.
yeah, that's pretty nice. They don't fall out. But anyways, yeah, it's the same layout basically. The pockets are shaped a little differently, but yeah, it's the same layout, and I'm stoked on it.
How is it? So you've been going for 2.5, going on 3 years now.
3 years, yeah, almost 3 years.
You're still a solopreneur?
Yeah, so a year and a half ago, I went to only bags.
Yeah.
So I've been there for a year and a half, and
How's that going? Because I mean, not that I'm not really selling anything other than a couple of hats and t-shirts. But I don't have a partner. I'm solo.
For sure.
So I identify with you that it's like a lot of times it's easier to have a co-founder, if you will, to bounce ideas off with, to share the stress.
100%. A lot of people are telling me I need to do that, but I'm trying to figure out because I don't want to give away equity.
Sure.
So it's kind of a weird pickle I'm in right now because I do see people that have a 2-person team, and it's like some days it's like, man, that would be awesome, Like off days is tough, man. Like this is like, it's like this, dude. Being on your own and
that's
selling
stressful.
stuff. The downs are tough.
Yeah.
It's like you start thinking like, all right, we're gonna switch, we're gonna do
Maybe
something
it's the wrong
else.
idea.
Yeah, this isn't
Let's
it.
pivot.
And then you have a good day, and it's like,
Right. And the only
we're sending kids
the only
to college
person
from
talking
this.
back to you is your inner voice.
100%. Yeah, it's just your brain. 100%. It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I mean, is your dad a good kind of sounding board for that, or do you have somebody else, or is it literally just?
I have good family down in San Diego that are a little older that are seasoned in business. He's really good because he's golf, and he buys from people like me. So I've got a lot of good info from him. And then I just talk to people that are like 10 years older than me that are doing good stuff in business and just be a sponge.
Sure. Are you pretty much 100% still direct to consumer?
Mostly, we're doing more and more bulk orders as much as we can, but it's just tough.
Yeah.
I mean, if you know of any, send them to me.
I get that.
I'll take
That's
as
why
many.
you're
That's
here. I get it.
100%. Bulk orders and
There is a huge market. Certainly, I've mentioned it to one of the earlier guys on today's podcast, and a lot of different podcasts. It's this Instagram world of golfers.
For sure.
And it's also there's a million people kind of like me who have created a logo or a design, and there's a million of us, and everyone wants to throw it on a shirt and a hat and a golf bag.
That is where a lot of success has come. There's a lot of companies out there, small companies starting. I'm a small company as well. I'm not poo-pooing. I'm just saying there's a lot of them out there that people want to rock their logo, and a lot of them they really like getting the one-off bag. It's an easy sell. For the same price you're going to buy another bag, you get your logo, you get to do this and that. Now they get to walk around with their logo. Oh, what's that?
How did you find who's actually making these bags?
We are overseas now. We were doing them here, but we're fully overseas. We've had a good relationship in India, and it's great. We can send over one-offs, anything, pictures. It's just printed, and
Have you
had no problems. I have not been there.
So everything's done just virtual and remote.
Yeah. WhatsApp.
Everything's on WhatsApp.
Probably should get off there, huh?
No,
Off the cloud. No, WhatsApp's great.
Yeah.
Because it automatically downloads the pictures that are sent.
Oh, really?
That was the original.
That was the original beat.
Yeah.
I know that Mark Zuckerberg paid a lot of money for it.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
That's getting off topic. Well, congratulations, man.
Appreciate it.
I was not exaggerating when I told you offline before that I've spent like 3 hours on your customization tool. Just
People do that,
and I'm
we
almost
just
like,
we need to
that's
get them to
almost-
closing.
And I'm like almost ready to. I'm just like, no. Let me come back to that. Let me consider
Oh, that actually causes me physical pain to hear that. Because I know that's happening like crazy.
Right.
Option fatigue, like
Sure.
there's so many options. If there was 10 options, you might have bought, you know? Like if there was 10 options and you can put a logo, it's different than if you can upload your image and all this stuff. Like
that's an
option
interesting-
fatigue is a real thing, and we're losing sales off of it for sure.
Huh.
Because if there's unlimited options, it's never right. It's never quite right.
Right.
You know?
Right.
No, the frame of mind you're talking about is definitely
not
something I'm
unusual.
trying to overcome.
Yeah.
It's just tough. So if anyone's got any ways to do that.
Well,
but yeah,
it's pretty cool. I'm gonna get an order.
Appreciate
in.
it, appreciate it.
I love your bags, man. I love what you're doing.
Appreciate it.
I love your vibe. I love your energy, and we had a good time last year with you and your dad.
100%.
We had a lot of laughs.
All
It was
time.
kind of a highlight of the show.
we had an all-time
we were
night.
telling all kinds of stories. It was good. Good time.
It was
tell
great.
Tell your dad.
I will.
Said
Thank you
hello
so much for doing this.
Absolutely. Good to see you, Tom.
Appreciate it.
Good luck with the rest of the show.
Hey, likewise.
I don't have a good golf game, but I don't really care. I'm a regular dude living in DC, and I want to know about DC-centric golf stuff. If you can tell me something that I don't already know, then that is great for me. I don't want the regular stuff. I want exciting stuff. I want different stuff. I want stuff I can't hear elsewhere. But I want it to be about DC golf.